Allan Advisors, creating aha moments, presents Aha Business Podcasts. We provide opportunities to discover information to help you run your business and guide your decision making. The more you know, the better decisions you make. For more information, log on to allanhirschadvisors.com. I'm your host, Allan Hirsch. Attention business owners. Has your business suffered financially from COVID-19? If so, let us help. I'm Allan Hirsch, a member of Business Coaches Assembled under a grant from the Small Business Breakthrough Executive Team. Our mission is to help business owners who have seen their revenues negatively impacted by 20% or more due to the virus. We can help you recover $50,000 to $70,000 or more of your lost revenue over the next 90 to 120 days. For more information, go to www.ahaonlinelearning.com to receive my book, 45-Minute Breakthroughs. That's go to www.ahaonlinelearning.com. Welcome to today's podcast. My guest today is Kim Frederich from Sales for Non-Salespeople. So Kim, welcome to the show.
So good to have me here. I'm very glad to join you, Allan.
It's my pleasure. So what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
That's the question you ask everybody, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And part of that reason is I believe it's important to know why you do what you do.
It is, because you do need to have that purpose in order to be able to get out of bed and get to work. And, this came from a deep-seated need to want to help people. And for a long time, I didn't really know what that meant or what that was going to look like. And I thought maybe it meant a career in something to do with the healthcare services. And I did some career coaching while I was in the middle of a transition. And I indicated that. And the career coach lady was like, you don't really have very high scores on the sciences here. This is probably not. And so I realized that the serving and the helping really was something else, and it needed to come from somewhere else. So then what I did was, what do I know about? And how can I take what I know about and help people? And how that has become distilled is in two ways. I'm helping businesses grow, and I'm helping the people who run those businesses grow. So I'm helping a business grow by finding opportunities for them, and I'm helping the people grow by helping develop their skills. So it kind of wraps all up into helping everybody grow, and I take that in the broadest sense of the word.
Well, I agree with your reasoning, because I do basically the same thing, but we approach it from two different areas.
Right, exactly. And actually, I was just going to say, Allan, I'm coming up with a new visual identity because I've also got a new business name. It's the Ventus Group. Just working now on what is the visual identity that goes along with that, and it is all based on growth and a representation of growth, what that looks like.
Yeah. So, you work with a lot of salespeople. So why do so many people fear selling? Let's start there.
Well, most salespeople don't, but a lot of business people do.
Well, I would suggest most salespeople actually do, but don't recognize it.
Oh, that could be too. And the reason is the same for all of them. People fear rejection. They think that by making an outreach to somebody, that person might say no. And that makes somebody feel rejected personally, when of course there's nothing personal about it. And there's always somebody else who might say yes. But that's the foundation of why people think selling is such an unpleasant thing, because somebody might say no.
And you get a lot of no's in sales.
You do, and that's okay, because what selling is really about is finding a connection between someone who is experiencing a problem and the solution. That's what selling was really about. So the no could be because they aren't experiencing the problem, or they are experiencing the problem, but they've already found a solution and your solution is too late or not really the appropriate solution, in which case both cases are a no. But it doesn't matter, because a lot of people still feel that as a personal no. And I counsel my clients to say, well, okay, just move on. Because there are plenty more people who do need your help, who are experiencing the problem you have that you help solve and can turn into a yes.
Yes. So can anyone sell?
I think they can. This is one of those long debated things. And I was actually in a networking event this morning. Actually, I think you were there too. And somebody said, I can't sell. I've never been a good salesperson. I can't sell. And I just wanted to say, yes, you can. Because the reality is selling is just about having a conversation. And all of us can have conversations. Even the most shy, introverted person is capable of having a conversation with somebody. Maybe it's somebody that's close to them who knows them, so that feels more comfortable, right? But in its very essence, selling is about having a conversation and making that connection. So it's just a case of taking that idea and expanding that into a business setting and a business scenario where you're still just having the conversation. And I like to tell people that, none of us were born knowing how to walk or talk. We had to learn. And those skills don't just happen. Nobody knows how to sell when they're born. People like to say there are born salespeople. I don't agree with that. I think there are people that are born who are more naturally inclined to be able to have those conversations and make those connections. But real, genuine selling, no, you can learn. Just like riding a bike and just like learning how to walk, you learn and you probably fall down a few times along the way, but then you get there in the end.
So how do you structure a sales conversation? And, what's the single most important thing you need to succeed in sales?
Well, that's two questions. So I'll start with the
single
most important thing.
I think they're very well connected.
They are. And we'll start with the single most important thing. Because again, there are so much, Allan, I'm sure you'll agree with this. Would you say there's a ton of baggage around sales and selling?
Particularly if you're selling baggage.
Yes, particularly there. Yes, indeed. But there's so many negative perceptions associated with sales and selling. And so people say, well, I can't be good at this because I'm not an extroverted person. I'm not very good at making conversation and presenting. And actually, though, that doesn't matter at all. In fact, what I've found is that oftentimes those people that are a little quieter and are a little bit more prone to listen are actually better at sales and selling. And that's because that is the most important thing, being able to listen. And I don't just mean by listening to what people are telling you, but also what are they not saying? And what are they telling you without using actual words? It is amazing what you can pick up when you actually really just relax into that conversation. Remember, it's just a conversation, and really, really listen. People will tell you all kinds of things. So here's the structure so that you can get people to tell you all kinds of things so that you can listen. First, you have to build rapport. And there's lots of, a friend of mine and I debate about this all the time. How do you do that? She thinks that talking about the weather is completely inappropriate. There's lots of other ways to build rapport. And I say, you know what? If talking about the weather allows you to create an instant connection and find some commonality with somebody else who maybe has absolutely nothing else in common with you. So, for example, we have in the DC area sometimes some very extreme weather. And I attended a networking event once where just as that event was kicking off, there was one of those tremendous summer thunderstorms. You know, the kind we have where you really can't even be outdoors. And people were arriving in the midst of that. Well, that creates an instant point of shared experience and shared commonality, right? So right away, you can start to build rapport. Now, there are plenty of other ways too. One of my favorites, which is a little bit dated at the moment, I like to say, where are you planning to go on your next vacation? So even though we can't go anywhere right now, we can still plan our next vacations. And it's always fun to hear what are people planning and what sorts of things interest them that would allow them to go find a vacation. So that's the first thing.
Well, day before yesterday would have said one thing, and yesterday would have said something else, but that's beside the point.
Well, but exactly. You see how a conversation can get started then? Because had you said that to me, and then I met you again today and you told me something different, we're right off to the races. We're talking about
Right.
something. Yeah. So that's the first thing, build rapport. The second thing, and it depends on where you are in your conversation. If this is the first time you met somebody or you're more than once you've talked to someone, you want to just recap on what you already know. And that could be that you've maybe never met someone before, but you reviewed their LinkedIn profile. So you want to recap on that and just make sure that you've understood what you've reviewed. Then you want to move from there to what does this person want to achieve? And this is, again, very broad. It could be anything. It could be they just want a problem solved right now today because their internet is not working and it's causing them all downtime and productivity issues. Or it could be that they're planning to do something significant this year and it requires all of these steps. So that's where you go next. What is it they're wanting to achieve? Not until you understand that do you start to look at solutions. And remember, we're in the sales conversation. What we're trying to do is understand what the problem is. And then do you have a solution which is appropriate to solve that problem?
Well,
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, and sometimes I don't technically practice what I preach, but 75% to 80% of selling is listening.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
if you're listening intently, it's sometimes what, as you said, it's not what you hear, it's it's what you don't hear.
Mm-hmm.
Then you
Yeah.
can turn the conversation on to selling them what they want to solve their problems, which is what
Yes.
you've
Well,
said.
and sometimes if you're able to ask appropriate questions, you may also turn it not just to what they think they need, but you can sell them what they want. But you can actually give them what they need, not just what they want, but what they actually
Oh,
need,
because
which
there's a
sometimes
big
are not
difference.
the same thing.
There's a big difference between the two.
Indeed.
It's
Right.
not what they, it's not what they need. It's not what they want, but it's what they truly need.
Right, right. And until you can really truly understand the situation that they find themselves in and where they are trying to get to, you can't really do that. Because if they come to you and they say, I need blah, 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 like I had a conversation just like this morning. He said, I need help filling my pipeline. And as I talked to him and I understood a little bit more about what he was selling and to whom, I said, actually, no, you don't. First, what you need to do is get your messaging clear. He should probably talk to you. He needs to get his messaging clear and he needs to be crystal clear about who he serves and what it is about his product and service that is allowing him to charge as much as he does. And he wasn't communicating that very well. And I said, until you can get that part straight, there's no selling going on.
Yeah, people don't. Well, one thing they don't do, they don't understand that marketing has a lot to do with sales.
Yes.
You've got
Yes.
to
Well,
market to get your sales, but they need to be intertwined or they go off the deep end. They don't they
they're
don't
so
generate the leads.
intertwined. It drives me crazy when I hear about, well, that's marketing's department and I'm in sales. They're so intertwined. I mean, the marketing and sales fundamentally are both about finding and connecting with clients, prospective clients that you can serve.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
really what they both do.
yeah, I had a guest this that's uh, last month that talked about having a director of uh, well, he combined sales and marketing into one division
Yeah.
instead of creating separate silos for the two of them
Yeah,
because they're intertwined.
I think that's actually a good way to go because they're all chasing the same objective, and the more that they can talk to each other, the better.
Mm-hmm. And the more they share with each other. Uh, what's a market dominating position that sales doesn't know? I mean,
Right,
marketing has no idea what you're trying to do with the sales,
right.
and
They
they've got
should
to
though.
present the case that what you're selling is what you're selling, and so often they are diverse.
Yeah, no, exactly. And they are really, they need to be They need to be having the same messaging and supporting each other's messaging.
Right. So the last question for the first part of the podcast: how do you craft the most effective questions for your sales conversations? We've talked about, the building rapport and so forth, but what are really effective questions for the sales conversations?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that, Allan, because so many people sort of stop at what are called discovery questions, which is, so tell me about your organization, and shame on you if you're asking anything that is in the public domain. If you're having a sales conversation, that information is available to you. You don't be asking that unless you're clarifying something that wasn't clear to you. So a lot of people stop with those kinds of discovery questions, and even including what I was saying earlier about what is it that you're trying to achieve, and tell me a little bit about what is this problem that you're experiencing. Those are important, but where you really show your value as a sales advisor and a salesperson is when you can connect your questions to your company's unique selling proposition. So whatever it is that makes your company unique, better, or different than other operators in the same space, your questions need to be crafted around that. And I first learned this when I was taught how to sell at Xerox, and Xerox was the master at this, because at the time, scanning was a new technology and people didn't really understand what it was. But when you could ask a question about, like, how important is it to you that you keep this information easily accessible? And people would say, oh, well, it's really important. And then you'd say, well, what could you do with the space that you keep all of those filing cabinets in if you didn't have to keep things in the paper format? And so what it did at that time, this sounds like ancient history now, but at that time it was new technology, and it allowed that conversation.
It really wasn't new technology.
Well,
the technology's been around since the Civil War.
Right. But it was new in the business environment.
Right. It was absolutely new to the business.
And people weren't using it and didn't really understand it. I mean, everyone still had rooms full of filing cabinets, right? So when you could ask the question like that, suddenly Xerox and their scanning technology was the only real solution. It was a problem that the customer didn't even really know they were having. But because it was something that was unique to Xerox at that time, when you can craft your questions around that, you're still helping your customer. You're helping them achieve something which maybe they don't even know they need to achieve, but it's related to what they are actually trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of questions you want to add to your discovery.
Absolutely. That's a crucial question. It's actually the first question and challenge in my book, The 45-Minute Breakthrough, is building a market dominating position.
Right.
It's a unique selling proposition.
It's the longer I've been in business and the more business people I talk to, Allan, the more I understand just how critical that is, because
and the less and less the business owners understand it.
It's hard sometimes to come up with what it is. Right. And I saw something this morning that said, well, I provide a great service and my product is top quality. And I'm like, well, everybody can say that.
Well, you go website after website and they all say the same thing.
They all say the same thing. So that's why, Allan, it's important for people to be able to talk to you, because honing in on what it is that makes you better or different is really hard to do sometimes.
Yes.
But so critical. So we agree on that.
Absolutely, we agree. When we come back, I'll continue this conversation with Kim Frederich of the Ventus Group.
Hi, Rick Dempsey here. As a former Oriole and Series MVP, I know a lot about winning and championship teams. Today, I am happy to tell you about my award-winning web design and internet marketing team, Adventure Web Interactive. For over 2 decades, many of Maryland's most successful firms have chosen Adventure Web as their strategic partner for web design and online marketing. I can tell you from using them personally, their search engine optimization and social media programs have saved their clients tens of thousands over the traditional pay-per-click digital agency. Visit AdventureWebInteractive.com and listen to what clients such as Hercules Fence, TriStar Electric, ABC Rental, Rhine Landscaping, Markdown's Office Furniture, and many more highly successful firms have to say. And don't forget to tell them Rick Dempsey sent you.
Strengthen, protect, and preserve your retirement nest egg. Scott Garceau here for the Stephen J. Sless Group, Baltimore's reverse mortgage specialist. Reverse mortgages have evolved to become a viable retirement tool. Enjoy retirement without monthly mortgage payments, improve cash flow, pay off debt, and stretch retirement savings. Stephen and his team can offer strategies to make housing wealth work for you. If you're 62 or older, learn if a reverse mortgage could help. Visit reversebaltimore.com.
An equal housing opportunity lender. This is not a commitment to lend. Stephen J. Sless, NMLS 298581. PRMI NMLS 3094.
Welcome back to today's podcast. I'm interviewing Kim Frederich of Ventus Group. So we want to change the subject matter a little bit. We've done a lot on some background on sales. So where does the real business growth come from sales? Can you tell us about them and what happens? Where does the sales growth come from?
It's we talked about it actually a little bit in the first half, the combination of how marketing and sales work together. And I add a third piece to that grouping to say, so marketing is going to be out there to build brand awareness and just to be able to be out and about there, getting people to know about you and hear about you and generate some inbound leads, hopefully. Then there's also something that a lot of business owners miss that is so easy, and it's a great way to find more business within your existing client accounts. So what I recommend is that when you have finished an engagement with a client, or if you're working with someone on an ongoing basis, you set up a regular time for feedback and follow-up. And I don't mean send them a survey. How did we do? No. You want to call them and actually talk to them, because when you do that, you get tremendously valuable feedback that's both positive, makes you feel good, and maybe some negative things about what you can improve in what you've done in part of your service offering. And third, and most importantly, you have an opportunity to talk with that client about what else is coming up for them this year, next 5 years. Undoubtedly, there will be some more opportunity for your business in that conversation that comes out of that conversation. And while you're there and you're having this lovely conversation where they're telling you what a great job you did, and here's a few things you could do a little bit better. Okay, that's great, thanks. You can also say, is there anybody else who's in a similar position to you who we could also help? Right there, so easy to do. And great way to create tremendous opportunities at no cost, right? No cost, just your time. So add that to your marketing. So you got your marketing, you've got your referrals and your feedback, and then you have your proactive selling. So a lot of people think selling is just responding to inbound marketing leads. I disagree. I think that there is a lot of value in actually proactively looking for opportunity. And of course, I would say that I'm a salesperson, but it's the third sort of triangle on the stool that's going to help when you're really looking for growth. You need to have some proactive sales as well.
Well, actually, that's something I've been preaching to my clients for a long time. And it's the same three questions. Done a little differently. Same three questions.
You see, Allan and I, you and I clearly just share the same business philosophy.
I asked the same questions. How's our service? What would we do to change, to improve it? And who would you recommend in us contacting, reaching out to? It's right. The same, but that's very briefly the same questions.
The same questions, and it's so critical that that's not on a survey. It
right.
needs to be person to person.
Absolutely.
On the phone. However you do it, it needs to be not a survey. Because so many people say to me, "Oh yeah, I got a feedback form." No.
This is person to person.
Right.
What people forget is there's an 80-20 rule to just about everything they do.
Yeah.
80% of their sales and sales growth will come from existing customers,
right,
or their referrals.
That's right. And you, because you You've already got the know, like, and trust. You've already sold them. So this is simply a case of asking for other business that's already there.
There, right. And asking for other businesses that are already there.
And because they want to help you.
Right.
So very rarely will someone say, no, I can't refer you to anyone.
Mm-hmm. So where does a business owner and how does he determine to focus his energy?
So it
because,
depends.
Again, there's an 80-20 rule.
Well,
20% of his time, it generates, 80% of his time generates 20, that if he's working 20% generates 80% of the sales. How does he budget his time to do this correctly?
I'm going to say there are a number of factors that need to come into play, 80-20 being just one of them. You also need to consider what sort of product or service you offer. Some products or services really cannot be sold proactively. So for example, if you are selling exclusively online, you don't ever have is a sort of product that can be self-service sold online. Clearly, there's not really an opportunity for proactive sales. So I would say you focus all of your effort there on marketing and driving people to wherever it is that your selling platform is. Now, if you have a situation also where you're a brand new business and you have very few sales, then I would say you need to focus your efforts on sales and selling, because as you bring in more revenue, then you're able to fund more of those other things. And then you can relax a little bit on the sales side. It should never go away entirely, but then you can bring in more investment in marketing, and then that helps you to continue building the revenue. What I find always, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this, Allan, what I find always is that most business owners are not putting enough time into sales. A lot of people believe that marketing is all they'll need to do, and selling is that people will just come to them and they'll just have conversations and they'll say, sign on the dotted line. Well, of course, that's not how it really happens. There does need to be some proactive effort of some kind, even if that's going to a networking event and connecting with people and following up and having conversations. Some people can get away with just doing that. So it's going to depend a little, but it has to be, and it again also depends on where you are in your business stages.
Mm-hmm. So when you think about this. And one of the problems that most sales companies have is, I guess it's really in the marketing, but it's the contacts of the potential customers. With websites, only 1 to 3% of those who come to your website are buyers right then and there. Right.
And that's part of why selling is so important, because selling often is taking that long-term gain. So I'm going to give you another example there. So I'm doing some work right now for a client who is a marketing and advertising firm. And we are reaching out to some food producers who are growing, but have never worked with a marketing agency of any kind. And they're not ready in many cases yet, because they're not quite big enough and they're not ready to kind of take their market that big, and they're just not ready. But I call them. And I talk with them and I share resources with them. And who do you think they're going to call when they are ready? It's going to be us, because I've kept that relationship and kind of kindled it along. Now, you could argue, and I've heard this, that you could argue that you could do all that through marketing. Yeah, but no. I think that personal connection and being able to really understand what somebody needs and where they're going with their business development and how their business is expected to grow, it adds so much more when there's that personal connection.
Well, it does. But for those who have grown or established, there is, I hate to say it, but you can build a drip campaign at $15 to $20 a month with a CRM.
And a lot of that then would come down to, Allan, is what is the price point of your offer? For some offers, that probably makes sense. For other offers, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, the price offers usually don't come back in the drip campaign. They're talking about education and information.
No, that's not what I meant. I
Oh.
meant like, what is the value of your sale at the end of that?
Okay,
You
okay.
see, for a drip campaign, sure, that can work really well for a lower priced product or service, but for something that is a pretty significant investment, I don't think it works as well.
Well, okay. So what are other ways to connect with people with an eye towards an eventual sale?
So we talked about this a little bit already, being in this personal connection. You can reach out directly. I always recommend that you are very targeted as to who is likely to be experiencing the problem that you solve. You want to do that. And then you can reach out directly. That can be either through a personal phone call, or perhaps you attend the similar networking event because you know that people from that industry attend this event. Or maybe you connect with them on LinkedIn and you're sharing some resources there. I realized that we forgot to mention something when we're talking about how do you figure out where do you put your effort and your time? And I've developed something that a lot of people have found really helpful in understanding, well, how much time do they actually need to allocate towards selling?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's a spreadsheet type of thing where you can fill in what is your target revenue, what is your average client engagement. And I know you know this, Allan, because you've been doing this for years and years. It doesn't give you exact accurate results, but it gives you an idea of where to start. And then it'll tell you, well, this is how many qualified leads you need to have if your conversion rate is this. And then it will also tell you how many people do you need to be in your big prospect pool, which a lot of people call leads. How many people need to be into that in order for you to get the qualified leads you need? And then you can work it out as to how many people you should be talking to.
Yeah. So, so with this, is anything else we forgot to
Is
go
there anything
through?
else we've forgotten?
Or
Well, we didn't talk about our books.
Well, I
Yours is
understand.
right
I haven't
behind
gotten
you.
there yet. Because that's the last thing I like to talk about is
Okay,
books
fair
for
enough.
people to read. Is there anything that that you'd like to add? Because we're winding up the time for this podcast. Just want to make sure if there's not anything that you want to add that can help these business owners with their sales.
Sure. Well, I think there are two ways that you can do really any business task. You can either learn how to do it yourself, as we talked earlier. Everybody can learn how to sell. Takes a little bit of time. You can develop that skill. And that's usually where most people start. And then as you grow in your business, there comes a time when you can no longer do everything yourself and you need to make decisions about where do you get help. And a lot of people get help first. They get administrative help. Makes sense. Those are tasks that are lower value. So you want to get somebody else to do that so you can focus on the higher value things that only you can do. But what I'm learning is that because sales is something so many people feel uncomfortable with, and selling and revenue generation are so critical to a business success, is that maybe it makes sense to get some help with sales. And as you're growing along in your business, there is a period where you're selling yourself when you remember and when you get time, when you're not, managing payroll and going to network events or whatever else that you're doing, right? Or maybe even you're doing the work itself. So somewhere between there and being large enough to be able to afford a full-time salesperson, this is where the Ventus Group really comes in. We actually provide that part-time prospecting. We find qualified opportunities for you and just let you focus on, as we talked before, should you be doing marketing? Should you be doing sales? What should you be doing? And if it's not sales, we can help you.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, 80% of businesses, which is why myself as a general coach work, 80% of business has nothing to do with the products and services you sell.
Right.
And
exactly.
And you've got to be able to delegate responsibilities from bookkeeping to administrative to whatever and more,
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't, you're going to be at a plateau and you'll never grow outside of that plateau where you hit. So
That's right.
You've got to be able to learn to delegate. And if it's in
and
sales,
to allow you to focus on the highest value tasks that you bring to that business, whatever
right.
that might be. for different people, it'll be different things.
Absolutely. So anyway, so what is your favorite sales book?
Okay, well, we have to, of course, talk about mine, right?
Okay.
So it's called If You Can Have a Conversation, You Can Sell, which we sort of talked about at the beginning. And it's really sort of a primer, a very basic introduction. If you've never really sold, you're in that business position where you have a business now and you realize that selling is important and you're really uncomfortable with it, that's a great place to start. But I also recommend this one to a lot of people also who are feeling uncomfortable with sales. And this one is called Selling with a Noble Purpose. And that one is all about how when you are really truly serving somebody and making a difference in their life by solving a problem, selling becomes a noble pursuit. She talks about a lot of things. Obviously, it's a whole book. She talks about a lot of things, but it's very inspirational, especially for people who are uncomfortable with sales.
Can you read the title? Because a lot of people listen to this without the video.
Absolutely. It's called Selling with Noble Purpose, and it's by Lisa Earl McLeod. And mine is If You Can Have a Conversation, You Can Sell. And well, they're both available on Amazon.
Okay, well, great. So how, thank you for being here. How can my listeners reach you to get help in sales?
The best way, I love talking to people, Allan. I love talking with people about their businesses. And I have, like you, a really broad sort of base in business and what makes a business success. And I love talking with people. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can book a conversation call just for at no charge. We can just chit chat about what you've got going on and see what I can offer to help you and go from there.
Okay. Well, thank you again for being here. I appreciate it. And good luck with your sales team and the new name of the company, Ventus Group. I'm Allan Hirsch of Allan Hirsch Advisors, your host. To reach me, visit my website, www.ahaonlinelearning.com, and register to get my book free, 45-minute breakthroughs. You can listen to the podcast of past shows wherever you get your podcast by subscribing to AHA Business Podcast. You may email me at www.allan@allanhirschadvisors.com. You may follow me on LinkedIn at Allan Hirsch. I'm Allan Hirsch, and this has been AHA Business Podcast.